Hello, and welcome to this episode of Tripology Podcast. It's the only backpacking show where the hosts literally don't stop travelling. I'm Alun, and I'm here with the ever-reflective Adam.
In this week's show, thanks ever so much for joining us. We are going to be talking about the reasons why you should learn to walk before you run. There's going to be lots of reflection, lots of hindsight, and lots of sore, bloody legs, mate. And then, of course, we've got a wonderful story from you, Alan, in the Patreon.
Yeah, link in the description for anyone wanting to hear that. Of course, walking before you can run, an evolutionary prerequisite that's come true for you in your life. Tell me how.
Well, this week I'm going to tell you a story about the Routeburn Track, which is, of course, one of New Zealand's great walks. I cannot move for hiking at the moment, Alan. Honestly, it feels like I'm doing about 60 kilometres every single day. If I'm not walking, I'm driving, very rarely sleeping. And this story in particular, I think it can be sort of extended into a metaphor for life, really. I'm really looking forward to sharing it with you and the audience and getting your opinion on the matter.
Yeah, I'm proud of you for doing all that hiking, Adam, because there was a little period where I was in the Philippines and you were working in Queenstown and you kept on saying, I'm going to buy a car and I'm going to go on hikes. And it seemed like it wasn't really happening. And me and a lot of the listening audience were growing concerned that you were all bark with very little in the way of a bite. But I'm glad to see that you're travelling now, you're hiking about, and all the stories that you're accruing, I'm sure, are going to be worth their weight in gold to us.
Yeah, I hope so. Definitely hope so. I do feel incredibly fortunate to be living this experience. I should probably mention that my partner is doing most of the organising, if not all of it. So I'm doing a lot of the driving around in the van, the aforementioned van, which is got a new tyre last week, actually. That does feature in this story. Maybe I'll tell that in the Patreon as well. But we desperately needed a new tyre. However, the Routeburn Track, which is going to make up the bulk of the episode, it is about 33 kilometres long. Now, the organisation comes into the fold because of the way that we were moving around that region, which is, again, sort of the Milford Sound, Fiordland National Park area, i.e. shit weather most of the time. It's pretty difficult to fit it into our schedule because most people take, say, 2 or 3 days. And my partner was looking at the weather, looking at the equipment we needed to take, and was thinking, can we squeeze it in the way we want it to work? We were going to stay basically with our tent for one night in a place called the Valley of the Trolls. And we spoke to the Department of Conservation beforehand, and they said that due to some snow that's still there and the chance of sort of heavy rain and that sort of thing, the area where you're allowed to free camp is still covered in snow. Therefore, you will not be able to camp. It is, out of bounds, essentially.
Now, when you hear that, are you concerned? Because we know that your partner is very resourceful when it comes to camping. In a previous episode, she, of course, filled a shampoo bottle with pesto. So she's proven herself to be quite the innovator. So you must be thinking, no worries, she'll take care of it.
Exactly. I would say, don't worry about it at all. To the Department of Conservation, I just said, look, we'll basically put the application on top of the gas canister. We'll turn the whole place into a fireball. It'll melt the snow in no time. No, it was a bit sad because it is one of those very iconic, very picturesque. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. The Valley of the Trolls on the Routeburn Track. Amazing scenery, wonderful place to camp. But it should have been possible at this time of year, but it just wasn't. So we were dicking around, looking at the calendar, looking at the weather, looking at the logistics of it, trying to figure out how we could get it in the way we wanted to with all of the different moving parts. And she said, you know what, I'm just really not sure. I'm kind of down about the fact things aren't working out. And I said, well, I would really like to do it. So why don't I just absolutely fucking blitz the thing and trail run it in one day?
Without her?
Yeah, I mean, we'd already come to the conclusion that we were either going to leave it out or the only way that we could do it, and I think I wanted to do it slightly more, but was because I thought it was possible to do it in one day.
What do I think? I think it sounds like you. I think that there'd have been an aspect of you that couldn't bear the idea of not doing it because fear of missing out is a term that a lot of people throw around these days. But for you, it's quite pathological. I think you wouldn't have been able to sleep. You'd have got quite irritable. You'd have been quite frustrated. You'd have thought, how dare God bestow this weather upon me, which has now prevented me from doing that which I came for. I think for her sake, it's good that you just ran the thing.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm sort of glad. I mean, this will come sort of full circle.
Well, it should. If a trail run should come full circle, and if it doesn't, you've got lost.
Well, I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because the difficulty with the Routeburn Track is the logistics, and it is exactly because it is not a full circle. It's not a loop. It's a point to point.
They always say that, don't they? When you say to the people at the reception, you go, "How difficult is this track?" They go, "Do you mean physically or logistically?" Because physically it's a piece of piss, but logistically it's a fucking nightmare.
Mate, there will be some people listening to this who go, "No, Adam, we understand the Routeburn Track is a fucking pain in the arse to organise." So it's about an hour and a half, 2 hours away from Queenstown, past a place called Glenorchy, which again is absolutely stunning. You go from a place called the Routeburn Shelter, that's at one end, and then you go 32 kilometres through the mountains and wonderful forest and all this sort of stuff, and then you end up at a place called the Divide, which isn't that far away from Milford Sound. Milford Sound, famously, nowhere near Queenstown. So you've got a huge drive through Tiernow all the way back round to Queenstown. It takes hours and hours. And the only way to do it, this is a really cool thing, by the way, little tidbit for you. If you are here and you've got some friends or you've got access to Facebook, you can go on these groups where people agree to key swap. So imagine me and you, mate. Imagine we don't know each other.
Oh, shit. Swingers.
But imagine me and you, we don't know each other. We're not friends, but we contact each other on Facebook, and you say, "Look, I'm going from the Routeburn Shelter to the Divide on this day," and I say, "Well, I'm doing the exact opposite on the same day." What we can do is
oh my God, let's swap keys.
Let's swap keys and have sex. What you can do is just swap keys on the trail somewhere and then drive each other's car back to a named location and then pick up your cars that way. So that saves hundreds of dollars, because the only other way to do it is organise with one of maybe 2 or 3 tourism companies shuttles to either end, right?
But you're doing the trail run on your own, so your partner will still be in the car. That's got to be cause for concern.
Well, obviously I floated the idea. I was like, maybe you could drive the van all the way to the Divide and meet me at the other end. But no, I didn't want to put that pressure on. It would have been a pretty lonely drive. And I thought, there were other options that we could have explored, which were, and because my lovely partner works in tourism as well, she was able to get me a pretty sweet deal on a shuttle that went from Queenstown to the Routeburn Shelter, and then also a return shuttle all the way from the Divide back to Queenstown on the same day. And this is where the problem started. There I was.
Okay.
You ready? I realise that's a very big run up to the start of where the day starts, but it is about to get very interesting.
I thought the problem started when the weather was so bad that your girlfriend tapped out and you said you were going to run the whole thing. But it turns out that was just a mere bump in the road compared to what's about to occur.
Yeah, the road trips, mate, there's things happening, almost on an hourly basis. So I got up very early, 7 o'clock, got down to the tourism office where I was going to get my shuttle with a load of other people all the way to the Routeburn Shelter. Now, the bus was supposed to drop me off at 9:30 a.m. and the return shuttle was supposed to pick us all, well, not us all, but anyone who has booked that shuttle, up at 3:30. So that gives me 6 hours to do 32 kilometres.
Easy.
Well, it is easy on paper. It is definitely easy on paper.
But logistically,
as long as you're jogging, a light jog, what's that, 6 to 8 kilometres an hour, you can definitely do it. If you calculate it, it's doable. And I thought, as long as I keep that pace, it doesn't really give me much time to take photos or stop, refill water bottles, have a bit of a lunch break, etc. But I thought it's definitely doable. And this sort of, the run became more about me trail running it and it being sort of a personal challenge and an achievement than it did about me sort of enjoying the walk at my leisure and just having a bit of a gander at the beautiful scenery. So we got to Glenorchy, and lo and behold, true to form, I had been out the night before and had one of the spiciest Thai curries I've ever had in my life. Now, we were about 10 minutes away from Glenorchy. It was just a tiny shuttle. There was no toilets on the bus, and I was thinking, oh my God, much in the same way that your Brazil story took hold, shall we say, or unfolded.
Yeah, briefly for those who don't know, I needed a poo on a bus in Brazil. I had to stop the driver and do it on the side of a road.
So yeah, I sort of flagged the driver down. I was like, mate, are we going to be there soon? He was like, yeah, I had 10 minutes. I was like, I've probably got 5 if you can put your foot on it. So we stopped. I said, where are the toilets? Oh my God. He said, well, they're just round the corner, but we are only stopping here for 5 minutes. So you do need to be back because the bus will leave without you. So I pegged it into the toilet, did the business as fast as I could, as efficient as I could.
Congratulations. That's more than I can say.
I was sweating for multiple reasons because I didn't want to miss that shuttle, and then ran back to the shuttle for the next leg of the journey. But the driver was actually just chatting to a Chinese couple who seemingly needed some help with something. And 5 minutes went by, 10 minutes went by, 20, 30 minutes went by. Now, this wouldn't have been an issue had I not had a shuttle at the other end booked. So I was basically just watching the amount of time that I had allotted to do this thing dwindle. And I was thinking, oh my God, as every minute passes, I've now got to run faster around this track, basically. So we ended up getting dropped off just before 10 a.m. I thought, holy shit, I've only got 5.5 hours to do this thing. And then I received a text message, and my partner had said, just so you've got your confirmation on the way home, I've just checked, the return shuttle's actually at 3:15 and not 3:30. So there goes another 15 minutes. And I was like, no, you can't be serious. I mean,
You're losing time to the Chinese couple. You're losing time to your girlfriend's efficiency. You're going to have to sprint it, mate.
There was another guy on the bus as well who we didn't speak, but he looked like a trail runner. It did said trail running on his t-shirt. He looked fit. He had one of those.
Did it?
He had one of those. He'd shaven his legs. He had one of those little jackets. You know the little, what are they? They're like a camelback. They're kind of a drinks thing and a vest. And he looked. It was high vis. He looked the part. He looked super fit.
Handsome gentleman.
It was hot stuff, mate. It was hot stuff. I thought, if there's anyone on this shuttle bus that is running this thing other than me, it's him. So I set off, and
you quickly go, excuse me, I need the toilet again. Shaving your legs in the bathroom.
I set off and got underway. Luckily, one of our friends had actually completed the course in less than 6 hours the previous day. So his advice to me was really precious. He said, whatever you do, just don't stop and make sure you make the most of the first section. The first sort of 7 kilometres or so is through the forest, and it's relatively flat. I mean, it's certainly not literally flat. It does go up, and there's a few things to consider. But he said, if there's a part that you can sprint, try and make it that. So there I was off, I was going. I quickly realised that I was nowhere near as fit as I thought I was, and I think that's a great place to stop the first section of this episode.
Okay, well, let's let you catch your breath with a brief interlude, and we'll be back to hear the rest of your story in a little second. What a beautiful little second that was. And now, the rest of your story.
My goodness, what a professional. So yeah, I basically darted through a lot of the forest and managed to make it all the way up to the mountainous area. You go past a load of different huts, and I afforded myself the luxury of taking a load of photos, taking some videos, which will be up on Instagram. Of course, when this episode goes out, I've put a little reel together, so you'll see what it looks like.
Link in the description.
The link in the description. The scenery is absolutely jaw-dropping. I mean, the Routeburn Track itself is known as being one of the most beautiful, certainly one of the most achievable. But I was quickly coming to the realisation that I had made a mistake, and this is where I started to get a bit reflective, because 3 or 4 hours in, I was realising that the track itself it wasn't too difficult to run, I wouldn't have said. But it was becoming unsafe. It really was, because in order for me to make the time, which is sub 6 hours, let's say 5.5, I had to run so fast that I was putting myself at risk. The terrain isn't just a flat surface that you can run on. It's not a wide, well-trodden gravel path or anything. I mean, you are scrambling some of it. There are some rocks. Some of them are big. Some of them are incredibly loose. Some of them go across, along the edge of a cliff. You have to jump over like waterfalls and things like this. So I thought, if I go any...
Is Camelback Handsome Man with you?
No. So at this point, I'm glad you mentioned him. At this point, I had thought to myself, either he's much quicker than I am, or I left and I'm much quicker than him. So he's either running it much faster than I am, or he's just walking and I got it wrong and he's not actually a trail runner.
How did you get confused? Did you not see him run ahead or lag behind?
No, because when I got off the bus, I immediately went for a second toilet visit.
To shave your legs, yeah, I remember.
So yeah, I sort of, it's quite meditative, doing these long walks. And a couple of observations for me, and hopefully some people listening at home can relate to this and maybe even use this if you do long hikes and you have the option to do it with a partner, a loved one, or a good friend or whatever. I quickly realised that I felt very disconnected from the other people on the track. And I know that might sound quite weird, but because I was running it and every other person was walking it, I didn't feel like I was on the same sort of mission that they were on. I didn't feel like I was enjoying the track that they were enjoying, the same way that they were enjoying it. And I know it might sound really weird, but I just felt very disconnected to the experience of enjoying the track because I was trying to blast it as quickly as I could.
Sounds quite analogous to bad travel in a way, doesn't it? Everyone else was enjoying the culture of the track, the natural beauty of the track. You were just blitzing it and as such weren't immersed in it fully and were disconnected from the other people as well. Like someone who, instead of meandering through a country over the matter of a few months, just sort of does it in a weekend on holiday.
Yeah, you're totally right, mate. And it kind of rendered large parts of the track quite unenjoyable. I was running, I would say, as fast as either I could in terms of my physical capacity, or as fast as I could literally because of the terrain. I didn't want to fly off the edge and die. That would have been, then I definitely wouldn't have made the shuttle bus.
How long does it normally take, the track?
So it's 32 kilometres and people usually take 2, sometimes even 3 days.
Right.
And I was attempting to do it in 5.5 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty difficult. Yeah, 5.5 hours would have been great because I had that shuttle bus on the way home looming. And also I was sort of thinking to myself, you should have really just done it with your partner. There should have been more encouragement. There should have been maybe more flexibility. And am I really enjoying this on my own? Have I just embarked on this just to say that I've done it? And am I really taking it in? I do think one sort of abstract thing that I thought of on the trip, it's very hard to articulate, but if someone goes to a city for 2 days and they feel like they've got a good grasp on that place and its energy, how it moves, what the people are like, what the culture of the city's like, and some other people go for a month, naturally we would assume that the person who goes for a month or 6 months has a much better grasp of the city than someone who's just been there for a couple of days. But do you think in some cases, if you're someone who's incredibly receptive and allows everything in, interacts with locals, connects with the environment around them, just as much as, because there are some people who could go somewhere for a month and then not really interact with anyone at all and just...
Sure.
Do you sort of know what I mean?
Yeah, I think to an extent, yeah, but I think that time, brevity is in and of itself an immovable barrier to true connection to some extent. Whilst I guess what you're saying is it possible to do everything in a city in a weekend and be as connected to that city as you would if you did fuck all in a hotel room for a month?
Yeah.
I think kind of, yeah, but the fact that you've really just done everything, I think to some extent the relaxed approach of hanging out for longer periods of time is how you absorb and reflect on the place itself. So I think that you certainly packed the trail in, but maybe the way in which you did it was a blocker to any kind of enjoyment that you could have got.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I mean, maybe it's a conversation for another day, but I did feel like on the track, there's just no way I could have been experiencing it as well as it should have been experienced. I felt very underappreciative. Like I didn't do the track justice because I was just flying through it. And even though I was, almost jokingly, it was a comical fashion, sort of looking around going, okay, you've seen that now. Okay, now you can run on to the next bit. And okay, you've looked at that. And now you've looked at that waterfall. And now you've taken a quick picture. And now you must run. It was, it kind of reduced the track to, something far less than it should have been.
I think that I'm very happy that you've had this epiphany, because for someone who's such a wonderful traveller and so against the concept of box ticking, I think the exact kind of travel that you're not is someone who goes like, okay, here's a list of things you've got to do in a place, tick them off. That's not who you are, but you do create boxes for yourself and a checklist for yourself, and your mental health suffers to some extent if you don't get through that checklist. I think I've observed that in you, where you kind of have a list of things that you want to achieve in a place, and if you don't achieve them, I feel like you think you've not had a full experience. And I think that sometimes it might be better to take a step back from that. I'm just going back to my experience in the Himalayas, right? Like, I took my time hiking through the Himalayas for 21 days. My favourite memories of those Himalayan treks aren't the things I saw. They're the slow moments where you're just with your friends slowly hiking. We stopped at one point for like 3 hours for no reason and just played in the snow. And I loved that. And I think that sometimes that is its own reward.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I am glad that we're having this discussion. And I do think that in some ways, even though it sounds counterintuitive when you travel, doing less, it overall is actually a more rewarding experience. And I know that a lot of people that maybe just think of that, if you go to a city, you've got a list of things you should see. In some cases, if you just throw that list out the window and just let the weekend, let's say it's a weekend in Paris or whatever, and you don't hit the sites, overall, you might just have a wonderful experience. But it is this sort of niggling, the counterintuitive, voice in the back of your head that's going, oh, but you haven't done that and you haven't experienced that, and that's what you sort of thought you were going to see, and that's what people say you should see. But if overall at the end of it you've had a really wonderful experience and it's been positive overall,
yes,
that surely that's the point.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. That's a really important point to drive home. I think that oftentimes that voice is the enemy of actual enjoyment. But to run the track in 5.5 hours is an incredible feat. Did you make it back in time for the shuttle?
So this is where it gets really interesting, because I arrived at the sort of the last hut for me on, sort of the direction that I was doing it. I arrived at the last hut, and I knew because of someone I'd spoken to, there's a place called Lake Mackenzie. I took a couple of photos of that and a video. You'll see it in the reel. It's absolutely exceptional. But the hut after that, which I had been told, was a good sort of hour from the divide where I was going to be picked up, I reached it at 2:54 in the afternoon. So I only had 21 minutes to make what the sign, Department of Conservation sign, said would take an hour. And as soon as I went past the sign and started going into the forest, continuing on this trail, the path went up, very steeply. It was like a fucking wall. And that's where I just threw the towel in. I thought, there's just no way. I mean, there's just no way. I was so knackered. I'd had so many of these, thoughts and reflections, and just sort of, I'd accepted that there would be a way for me to get home somehow. And I sort of, the trip then was sort of, I was a bit angry with myself and, feeling a bit down. And I thought, you could have done that section quicker and you shouldn't have stopped there for as long. And, it was really sort of psychologically beating myself up a little bit, because also wasn't as fit as I thought I should have been. And I was feeling a bit defeated. So I just thought, fuck it. Do you know what? Just enjoy the last section of the walk. If it takes an hour or an hour and a half or 30 minutes, whatever, but there's no way on earth you're going to get that shuttle. So I just enjoyed the last section of the walk, past loads of people who were like, hey, how are you? You're on the third day of your walk. I was like, no, I started about 5 hours ago. I'm absolutely fucking knackered. Please don't talk to me. You are going to have a great time because I've seen what you're going to see that way and it is absolutely magical. So, you guys should be really super excited. Then when I got down to the divide, to the last... to the car park where I was due to be picked up, I was 20 minutes late and I thought, right, now you have got something, you got more work to do basically, because now I needed to get home and I knew I'd missed the shuttle. I spoke to some people that I saw on the track who arrived a few minutes afterwards, and one of them was wearing a branded T-shirt. They were part of like this tour group. And I said, are you guys going back to Tianau at all, or even Queenstown? And she said, yeah, we are. I said, is there any way I could like jump in your van or whatever? And she said, I'm really sorry, for liability sort of insurance reasons, we can't take anyone who's not on the tour. But
grow up.
I said, we're in New Zealand, it'd be fine. Basically, she said, go out there on the corner, stick your thumb out, and I'm sure you won't be waiting 10 minutes. And on my way to the road, to the main road, to go and put my thumb out, I saw some road workers wearing high vises that were just having a fag by their trucks, just parked over on the side of the car park. And I thought, I wonder if they're going back to Tia now. I'll just quickly go over there. I said, lads, chaps, hey chaps.
Oh, you put on your working class sort of tributary accent, did you? All right, governor, I'm ever so much hard up at the moment.
I'm in a little bit of what you might call a pickle. But I said, I don't suppose any of you going back to Tia now, are you? I've just missed my shuttle. They said, yeah, give us a second, mate. We're just finishing up our fag, and then we'll take you back, mate. You're more than welcome to come in our car. And I didn't do the accent because the guy who took me was English.
No, I was just about to jump down your throat.
Oh yeah. He said, a fellow countryman, come on in. So within 10 minutes, the whole thing was rectified.
Crikey.
Driving through the beautiful, beautiful Milford Sound area, Fiordland National Park, feeling a little bit defeated, but I thought the story's taken a turn. This is wonderful. And we were having a nice old chat. They're arborists. They're in charge of sort of making the road safe by taking down trees that are, in sort of fall zones and all this sort of thing on the road. So really, really interesting guys. If you're listening, guys, they did ask me about the show, so you know who you are. Thanks ever so much for taking me all the way back to Tia now. Now, there is a little twist, mate, which I know you love. So halfway back, I managed to get some signal on my phone. There's hardly any signal at all, by the way, in this region.
Oh, so the shuttle doesn't know why you've not taken it?
No, the shuttle just leaves. They do a sort of a roll call, and if you're not there, they just go.
You weren't able to tell them in advance. Gotcha.
Unfortunately not. I'm not sure I had the bloody breath anyway, but I was talking to these guys, and we were about 20 minutes outside of town, and they said, where do you want dropping, mate? And I said, let me just get up on a map. I'll just have a look at where the best place is, where the best hitchhiking spot is, so I can get back all the way back to Queenstown. It's early enough that I'll give myself a good shot. And a text came through from my partner, and she said, is everything okay? Like, where'd you get to? And I said, unfortunately, I was running late. I was about 20-25 minutes late. So I missed the shuttle, but I'm just being taken back to Tia now by two lovely blokes. They let me hitchhike with them. And she said, well, hang on. Because she works in tourism, she booked all the shuttles for me and stuff. She knows their sort of routes and their itineraries. She said the same shuttle that you would have got is actually waiting in Tia now and doesn't redepart for Queenstown until 5 p.m. You've got 20 minutes. How far away are you? So I looked at a map and we were 19 minutes away.
Oh, get in that shuttle, baby.
I said to the boys, I was like, guys, we might be onto a winner here. Do you mind taking me to this holiday park? There's the shuttle that I would have got actually leaves again at 5 and it's about 20 minutes away. The driver, he just sort of half looked round at me and went, don't worry, mate, I can drive faster.
Yeah.
He just put his foot down, blitzed past 3 cars, whipped it round a corner, and it was so funny. As we came into Tia now, we pulled up alongside the car park and we could see the big shuttle bus with the company name on it. I was like, that must be it. He went, that's not going anywhere without you, mate. He pulled right in front of it,
crashes into it.
He parked his car so unbelievably close to the front of this thing, just blocks it in completely. big handshakes. Guys, you've been amazing. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. And then I just sort of gave my name. Yeah, should have been on this one back in, the Divide, but can I come on now? Yeah, your name's it. Yeah, get on. And that was it, mate. I was away.
There's got to be immense satisfaction from catching the shuttle that you were meant to catch anyway, because it feels like then you did it in the right time, the right order. The universe protected you. That's really cool, man. And I'm ever so proud of you for having that experience as well and having that epiphany and taking some time to sit and reflect. I think that it was very brave of you to attempt to do that track in such a short time, but even braver to take a beat and be like, hey, I'm not going to push myself and ruin the experience entirely. I think that is a great moral to this week's story.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate it. I'm sorry I let you down. I'm sorry I let the fans down. I wish I could have done it. Maybe I'll give it another attempt at some point in my life, or maybe it'll...
No, that's the wrong lesson. You've taken the wrong moral from the story. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. Enjoy. Take a beat. Take it slow. Oh, and on that fucking epiphany...
But yeah, I mean, the story itself and the way things unfolded, it was better that it ended up that way, and that I got to chat to those two guys, and the hitchhiking experience and the missed shuttle, then the caught shuttle. So overall, it was a wonderful, wonderful day, and I realised a lot of things. I saw some incredible stuff that you will see on Instagram as well. Thanks very much for listening to my story.
Yeah, head over. There's a link in the description if you want to see those reels on Instagram. Of course, the story displaced tales of a trip for yet another week. But if you want to send in your greatest backpacker stories, there's a link in the description to do that. Now, though, I've got ever such a story to tell on Patreon.
Yeah, can't wait to hear it. Alun, I've been dying to hear this one for a long time, so we'll go over to the Lost and Found. Again, link in the description. We'll see you there, guys. We'll see you there. Bye.